Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier, it's the Army Leader Dashboard. This program has been really a seminal program in the Army to just change the perspective of Army leadership on data itself. We've had big data programs going on for a while. We have a big log program that's been what is known as our hub of log data. That has actually been in development and deployment for almost 7 years now. But it is really the Leader Dashboard program which highlighted not only how much data the Army actually has as we were inventorying it, but the quality of the data. And that is when the Chief of Staff and the Vice and all the rest of them sat around the first demo and they saw the information that was coming to them, and they're like, oh, so, a simple question, how many soldiers does the Army have, right? And we had 5 vendors that were competing for this at the time. And the numbers ranged anywhere from 850,000 up to 2.2 million, which is a pretty astonishing swing from a system that is all based on exactly the same data, right? And so it's not so much about what the data is, but it's the interpretation of the data and the quality of the data and how you integrate the data, right? And so one vendor was integrating not only the existing active duty components, but anyone that had retired within the last 5 years, which is the 2.2 million number, right? And the other vendor was only looking at the current number of soldiers that were deployable today, right? And then in the middle is the actual number, which is around 1.1 million soldiers, right? Which is the deployables and non-deployables minus the minus the retirees. So what this highlighted to us is not only the quality of the data, but our fundamental lack of understanding of the systems that we currently have, the data that's in them, and which one of those fields in the system are the important fields for making business decisions. And so in many cases, we do have data standards and interoperability standards around some of this data, especially the DCPDS data, right? But we don't necessarily know how that data is used. We are duplicating the data unnecessarily, right? So every system that we've discovered so far, every single one of them has a unique identifier for people, which is in our case an EDIPI. We couldn't find any that had a PIV identifier in them, which is okay, I suppose we're in our transition stage. But rather than pulling that data from a central authoritative repository saying here's where all the people data is, right? They're replicating that data straight from DMDC into their own system. And then that creates a problem when the replication fails, right? You might get stale and old data. So the integration component in the quality data is really the biggest highlight right there. And it has changed fundamentally. The Undersecretary, the Vice, the Chief, the actual Secretary of the Army are now talking about data and data quality issues and asking questions of their 3 stars and their 4 stars about data, which is just a fundamental change in the Army's approach to data.